Welcome to tonight's different room in the house edition of the Klown podcast. I'm Scott Burks, my co-host Dwayne Nash. Check him out at the Yard, that's HBCU Sports for all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Check him, the coach, and Sweet Lou out. And also check out his great work on herosports.com and reps about all things FCS athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. As for me, please go to my website, the Klown Times. That's my sports bar that I hadn't updated in a while. I need to do that. It's spelled Klown for K, by the way. It's www.theklowntimes.net. You can find me on Facebook as well. So you're on your smartphone, desktop, laptop, whatever it may be. Just type the Klown Times in the search window. Yeah, you can find me there as well. And one more thing before I get into it. You don't see me wearing anything right now because I don't know what the hell my hat is, but get the merch. I don't know what the damn hat is. I was looking forward and I'm like, screw it. But anyway, go to cafepress.com, search for the Klown Time Sports. The address will be in the description on YouTube when I upload this to YouTube tomorrow, and you're able to find the merch there as well. You also have Dwayne's links as well to Yards, HBCU Sports, as well as where to find him on herosports.com. So I have those links there as well. And one last thing, I know a lot of everyone said one last thing, but one last thing, please subscribe, like, share, comment, or dislike, share, comment. I don't know, I don't care. But anyway, we have over 300, we still have over 300 subscribers. No one fell off. We actually added 2 more as of 2 nights ago. So I'm at 306. So again, I'm celebrating the small victories, man. I'm celebrating it. So it's all good with me. So again, please continue to comment. We love the banter back, the back and forth. So you're able to do that as well. So we're going to get into it. We're going to first start with some NFL with the Bamma scene around the world. That's right. We say Bamma here on the show. We got Southern roots. We don't give a damn, but it is what it is. Speaking of which, the Bamma who's in the early for the Bamma of the year already. We're barely on the first week. We're barely on the first week of January, and we are a Bamma of the year candidate.
7 days into the year, and here we are already.
Yes, Antonio Brown, that same guy who had antics in Pittsburgh, shenanigans in Oakland, craziness in New England, and now just stupefying Bammaness in Tampa. I mean, the dude, look, we all seen what happened, so I'm not going to regurgitate what happened, but let's put it this way. I know apparently, like, Bruce Arians, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how this whole thing like precipitated, it's like started was that he was trying to get Brown to go into the game because apparently Antonio Brown has some incentives that he was this close to hitting $1 million worth of incentives, like I think it's $333,000 for like he hits a certain amount of receiving yardage, another $333,000 if he would have made a certain catch threshold, and a couple other things, one more $333,000. I think it was maybe a touchdown. So I don't remember. But all of these were within reach, and he could have achieved in this game, which is probably why Coach Arians is trying to get him back in the game, because Antonio Brown was dealing with ankle injuries, and he didn't practice all week. He did play the first 2 quarters, right? And so he was like, apparently he was like telling him to go in twice, and then Brown refused. So basically, your boss actually get back in the game so you could possibly get you incentives. And he's told the man no twice. And then Bruce told him to get out. And so basically, it took this out. Bruce Arians told Fox Sports about Brown taking off his equipment. This is a quote, never seen anything like that in all my years. And so to those Antonio AB apologists out there who said, well, you should go back in when you're having an injury, blah, 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 blah. This is, okay, I don't know how much this is true, where he was asked, Coach Arians again, speaking of all that, if Brown's ankle may have played a role in his refusal to play. he was officially, because he was officially listed as questionable before the game started because he had practice all week, but he played the first 2 quarters. And Aaron said, quote, no. He didn't think that his ankle played a role in refusal. Again, I don't know. I don't know Antonio Brown's pain threshold, but I know this. If the coach wants to get you back in the game so you can hit your incentives, and if you got Tom Brady toting you the rock who went to bat for him several times over, come on. But there's one more component, speaking of Brady. Apparently, Antonio Brown went to Tom Brady and said, and noticed that Gronkowski was starting to get a lot of receptions in the game. Apparently, Antonio Brown went to Tom Brady, is like, oh, so Gronk's your boy now, huh? And they said it in the hissy fit. Now, anyone knows anything about Tom Brady is this. He's a lot like Peyton in the sense that he doesn't necessarily play favorites in terms of who gets the rock. It's about matchups. Who has a favorable matchup? Who has favorable coverage? Who's getting more of the coverage roll to his side? So he's going to go who has the better chance, right? He makes it. Tom Brady's a GOAT for a reason. He makes the reads almost right away when he lines up, when they line his team up. So he knows almost right away who he's going to go to. And there's an actual short on ESPN where ESPN now has ESPN stories where he showed him when he went to give a fake handoff on a play action to Leonard Fournette, he just quickly says, cover 2, and goes back. So he knows from the snap what the defense is in. He has the damn answer key to every test he's taken in this, 20+ year career, to the point where dude just casually gets the hike, goes to do the play fake, the left leg goes, cover 2. Boom. Because he knows they're in cover 2. So he knows where he's going to go with the football when you line up. You can't really fool this guy anymore. So I say all that to say this.
Oh, for someone who's been in the league that long, no, you shouldn't be able to fool him at that point.
So to me, and I know there's some reports about some playoff teams looking to bring in Antonio Brown who showed some interest. I'm like, why? Why go through the headache? Because you've seen this story 4 times now.
We've seen this movie before.
4 times. Again, Pittsburgh, he acted a damn fool in Pittsburgh. He acted a bigger fool in Oakland. He was stupid in New England, and now he's just sort of fireable in Tampa. 4.
Yeah.
2 were well-respected organizations in Pittsburgh and New England. 4 times you're seeing this story. Why mess with this dude? Why screw around this dude anymore? I mean, come on. You can't be serious. You cannot be serious.
I wouldn't touch this dude. I'm gonna do my nice version of I wouldn't touch this dude with a 10-foot pole, right? Now you talk about the 2 organizations in Pittsburgh and New England being the respectable organizations, and Tampa, based upon their current makeup, is starting to become one of those organizations as well. But to your earlier point in terms of the incentives that Antonio was about to achieve, he needed 8 more catches to unlock, the 333 bonus. Right. He needed 55 receiving yards to unlock another 333 bonus, and then he just needed 1 receiving touchdown.
Oh, just one.
Just 1 receiving touchdown to unlock that third 33 and a third bonus as well, right? To your point of other teams being interested in this dude, just like you said before, it's a horror movie that we've seen before. We know that Fred Krueger is going to come back to kill someone who has lived on Elm Street. We know this already. Why are you moving to Elm Street? It makes no sense to me. If you know a bunch of people who have lived on Elm Street die,
right?
Or if you're people who live in the same town as Michael Myers, and has had issues with his family, why do you move into said town? I wouldn't do these things. There's just certain things I just don't do.
Right.
You know, call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm still here. Same thing with AB. Why are you getting yourself involved in that situation? Now, with you being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I would say that you would have more of a closeness to the AB situation than I would.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because of course, one of the things that people brought up was his hit involving Fontez Burfict.
Yeah.
And whether or not he may be dealing with CTE because of said hit.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen various posts about the signs of CTE, and of course, a lot of his actions reflect that. The negative thing, though, with AB, unfortunately, is he's been exhibiting these things before said hit. So we had that history with him even before he became a Pittsburgh Steeler. His time in college, which led to him transferring, and some of the issues that he got into collegiately. We know that he's a malcontent.
Right. Who happens to play really well.
Who just happens to play football extremely well.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that he's been expressing himself in a negative fashion, more so, in my opinion, since that hit. Now, I'm not a doctor. I can't, diagnose whether or not he has CTE or not. All I know is that this stuff is getting worse.
Yeah.
And as a GM or an owner, I don't know if I want to get involved in that situation.
Right.
Now, it's unfortunate that he lost out on said money. And it's interesting, right? You talk about his ankle injury. Someone sent out a post. I don't know the validity of these comments, but they're saying that NFL reporters said these things leading up to and game day as well. That these were actual facts, and you actually brought up a couple of those things, right? Said that several weeks into the season, he was on the injured list dealing with his ankle injury, right?
Right.
Something that we know. Also, leading up to Sunday's game, he missed 2 practices because he felt as though he was not 100%, right? During the game, he told Bruce Arians that he had concerns about his health while Bruce was telling him to get back into the game and play, right? This is something that you just said, right? These are all things that this dude is reporting, right?
Right.
And then, of course, it goes to the tirade. And then, of course, the tantrum. Well, there's also the alleged tantrum that Bruce Arians went into when AB told him that he wasn't going to the game, right? I had a conversation with a smart brother that I know. I've known for years. He's oddly enough one of your frat brothers. I'm not going to say that he's smart because he's an alpha, but I'm just saying.
He would like that.
he would love that, but he's also been smart before he was an alpha. So,
sure. Yeah.
One of the things he pointed out to me, and after I pointed out that list of bullet points, was, dude, if you were actually hurt, then why suit up? Why even if you were complaining about these injuries leading up to the game on Sunday, why even make yourself available?
Yeah. I appreciate him trying to be a gamer per se, but yeah, you made a valid point. If you're that hurt, why suit up? If you're that hurt, why suit up? Because, I mean, he probably didn't realize that he was going to eventually have this outburst. But if he was to have this outburst saying that he didn't want to play leading up to the game, he probably would receive a little bit more sympathy because of it. Right. Because people would have been like, oh my God, AB's actually concerned about his health and doesn't want to play. But yet his coaches are forcing him to play. Yeah. Don't know if it necessarily played out that way, but if he would have done that, that's the way it would have been perceived. And you don't suit up. But Bamma, you suited up. Exactly, that part. You suited up. Which means that, dude, you're available to play. And then you hear the stories of him complaining to Tom about him throwing the ball to Grant Moore. That's another sign that, dude, you want to play. So which one is it? If the stories are true,
do you want to play or are you hurt? I don't know which one to believe, right? Because, as the saying goes, it's their story, your story, and the truth. I don't know if we'll ever get to the truth because, of course, it's so easy to dismiss him as being crazy. Sadly, because he has a past.
And a pattern. At least 4 years worth of professional on a professional level. You mentioned all that he's going through before that.
Exactly, right? And then even like I said before, like you just said, even before, as much as people want to blame the Vontaze Burfict hit, he still had a pattern before that.
Right.
So it's hard to say what it is, what it isn't. And as of right now, I'm gonna say it could be CTE, so I'm a little concerned about that.
Sure.
But bro, you also got a pattern too.
Yeah.
So
he shows his ass a lot
with this whole. He does way too much, way too much. You come out with a single the day of the event. I mean, you don't have a ride back to where you need to get to because you wilding out. Oh my God, this whole thing is just a huge mess. And at best, all I can do is sympathize with whatever pain he potentially may be going through. But at the same time, if I'm an NFL exec, I'm not even thinking about bringing AB back. And then that's the other thing too. There are a lot of people who want to bring up and God, I hate that this has to be a part of the conversation too. The whole why is it that AB gets these opportunities and Colin Kaepernick doesn't? You also got to look at it like this, right? AB was coming in as what, the fourth or fifth wideout option in that situation.
Right.
We're not saying the same thing about Colin Kaepernick. So I'm not even going to have that conversation with anyone who's attempting to make this a conspiracy theory about Colin Kaepernick.
I can't believe people, because to me, as sad as I was when that first went down with him, I'm like, that's a dead ass horse now.
It is.
It's a dead ass horse.
It's dead, it's decaying. You see its skeletal remains at this point, and you're still kicking it. Yeah. Let it be.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And then my biggest thing is this, and I've said it on this show before. The owners that own these organizations, it's their team. If they want to continue to spite their nose, they will cut off their nose and spite their face by saying that, they don't believe that Colin Kaepernick is good enough to have with their team, so be it. Right. Just because you're good enough to perform for someone doesn't mean that you're going to get the job. I don't know about you, Scott, but I've been overlooked by lesser talented Bammas in my lifetime while trying to get jobs.
That's another podcast in and of itself. But
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it is what it is. And all I do is sit back and I just watch as those organizations do what they do because they didn't come to a better talent in my eyes. Same thing with Colin Kaepernick. A lot of these teams who a lot of people believe he's a better quarterback than, all them teams are trash right now.
Right.
So it's on them. That's what they want. That's what they're getting.
Correct.
And it is what it is. So I don't even want to have that conversation about that no more. But my thing is, I hope he gets the help that he needs, if he needs help. But if I'm an exec, I'm not touching that dude at all.
Yeah, bro. I mean,
to paraphrase Snoop Dogg, not with my penis.
Wrap it up if you are. But anyway, I'll say this, man. Look, I think I speak for you and most cats out there. If it's look, Antonio Brown is not the first dude to go through issues. He's not the first active player to go through issues. I just hope he gets the help that he needs, because to me, his action is screaming, I need help.
Yes.
It's just screaming that. But doesn't make it an excuse for him acting like a damn fool.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make him an excuse for him to act the whole ass. But I think the brother needs help. And I hope he gets help. He just doesn't need to be on the NFL field right now. He needs to be on Dr.
No, he doesn't.
And I'm not trying to be funny about saying that. I think the dude has issues. To act like that, it's and has a pattern of doing so. It's just crazy. It just goes to show you, man. Look at my Steelers, that Tomlin. I know that Tomlin was probably one of the main enablers in the Antonio Brown problem. But for him to keep everything together while he was out in the old ass in Pittsburgh for all those years, that doesn't make Mike Tomlin one of the coaching goats. I don't know what does.
And see, and that's one of the things that I also questioned too, right? Because I thought that through as well. Was that everyone talked about that, especially when AB was in Oakland, was that, oh my God, what was Mike Tomlin capable of covering up that these other guys couldn't?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure, and I don't know, and I guess I'll never figure it out. It'll take a better brain than mine to figure this out.
Or tell all book,
understand this.
Yeah.
Or tell all book. What is it about their coaching styles that's different from Mike Tomlin's coaching style? Whereas Tomlin could do what he could do to get things, at least keep things in a container as much as it could before they traded him, because of course the whole, as I like to call it, Pillsbury biscuit busting open in Pittsburgh was the fur coat incident, right?
Right.
When that final game, game 17, with Pittsburgh is looking to make the playoffs.
Baltimore,
he comes
Baltimore
out there, doesn't play.
Yeah,
and he comes out there in the fur coat, decides not to play, aka Joe Namath style, right?
So they played Cleveland that day. But go ahead, sorry.
So they needed that game to win, and he's not playing.
Right.
That was like the biggest thing that I can recollect that AB did, other than maybe comments about, Ben, and I remember that, and he apologized for that later, but he never lashed out like that before. The only thing that I can say is different between Mike Tomlin and all the other coaches is that he's a coach of color. He's a black man.
Yeah.
Knows how to understand a black man and how to deal with them. And it's probably the reason why he didn't react the way that he did in Pittsburgh versus other places. But whatever it was, man, it's different. And my concern is, and it just hit me while we're having this conversation, my concern is a lot of times these CTE things, if this is something that he's actually dealing with, as a lot of people believe that it is, doesn't necessarily end well. It ends with someone getting hurt, if not dying. And I think about South Carolina State alum who played for several teams in the NFL, Phillip Adams, who just recently killed a family along with himself, only to find out that he was dealing with CTE as well. I think he was dealing with, I forget what the stages was, but he was dealing with the highest stage of CTE, and which people are starting to believe that that's what led him to do what he did. And as much as I dislike him as a character, I don't want to see another human go through that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I may not necessarily be a fan of him, but I don't want to see another person go through that.
Right.
And it's something that needs to be addressed. And if conspiracy theorists are thinking this up, somebody in this circle is probably thinking this through, and I want them to go ahead and start talking to this dude about getting some help, because it's necessary.
Right. Well said, brother. Well said. One more thing on the NFL before we switch to college football, real quick, and later to HBCU Sports segment. Speaking of Mike Tomlin, props to him for setting the record for consecutive years to start a coaching career without a losing season. Congrats to him. He needs to get his flowers. Took his team to two Super Bowls, winning one of them. And he'll be no worse than 8-1 if we lose to Baltimore the last game of the season. And to have this team, albeit needs a whole hell of a lot of help to get into the playoffs, but to have this team with a shell of himself and Big Ben Roethlisberger, who played a lot of times like Large Benjamin this season, with a defense that couldn't stop me nor you from running the football against them, and with an offensive line that also could not block me nor you, to have them, this Steeler bunch, a stone's throw away from making the playoffs with a little bit of help, to have them this close, this far, without a losing record. Come on. We got to give the man his credit.
Most definitely, which is why I said, when there was talk about him being on the hot seat in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, I was saying, hey, come on down 95 South, brother.
Yeah.
We need you here.
You know how many teams, and I've criticized my time in the past, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite here, but let's put it this way. I know that if my Steelers were either too stupid enough to break him off, or if if he wants to take a break from coaching, you know how many teams are going to line up at the man's door? Outside of Bill Belichick in New England, maybe Sean McVay in LA, and Andy Reid in Kansas City, and John Harbaugh in Baltimore. I may be missing a couple others, but that's over 20 teams would love to have Tom. Would fire their coaches today if there's a chance of getting Mike Tomlin. Yeah. Easily. I mean, I'll tell you what, the team, even though the team here in Cincinnati is doing pretty well, finally, because the talent is actually pretty good. The young talent is actually very good. Don't think they'll hold on to this coach here if Tomlin becomes available, especially from a hated division rival. As petty as the AFC North is, are you kidding me? So anyway, I want to give the man his props, and because not a lot of people are doing it, and they're not doing it enough. So I just want to throw it out there. Especially with the lack of African-American head coaches or coaches of color in the league, most definitely needs to be celebrated. That part. Yes. So congrats to Omar Epps' stunt. So anyway, we'll move along to to college side. So, college sports has been seeing it's been seeing a lot of changes, right? So in the form of two forms, so the form of the transfer portal and NIL. Okay. Transfer portal has brought free agency, if you will, to collegiate athletics, especially football and basketball, right? More so in football. And if that's not crazy enough, you have NIL, name, image, and likeness, where players are finally able to get paid off of their name, image, and likeness. So all that is saying is the under the table shit that happened before in collegiate athletics is now above board, thanks to NIL and thanks to the Supreme Court, which ruled unanimously. And this is a conservative, very conservative Supreme Court, two of which were put there by the last president. Yes. Right? But you know what they believe in, though? They believe in free enterprise. Yes. So that is something that they couldn't deny. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. Yes. It's going to be something. And of course, you got the liberalness of allowing players to do whatever they want to do, right? But you also have free enterprise on the right. So capitalism. That's exactly what we all agree on. One C word: capitalism. Capitalism. Yes. And that's what this is. If these young men and women in basketball or in other sports are good enough to make these coaches multimillionaires several times over, they're good enough to get paid. They are. They're good enough to get paid. Now, I've been one before. I was one of those stodgy podgies in the past that it's like, what about a college education? Rah, 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 rah. Before common sense seeped into the equation and say, look, why are these coaches multimillionaires several times over? It wasn't like that when we were growing up. The money wasn't in collegiate sports. You only had a few guys on teams on TV. And it was even worse so before the late 1970s. Because there's a write-up, I think it's in the Athletic, I should say, where it was like only a handful of teams, like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Penn State, USC, and I want to say a couple others. I think Army and Navy, they were really good. Which you would see them the most on TV, right? And there was also the same teams that won the vast majority, or at least played in, for national titles. Yeah. And that changed in the mid to late 1970s when they opened up TV more to other squads. And then in the 80s where Notre Dame went rogue and signed their own TV deal, which caused and I think it was another ruling, I'm doing this off of memory, that allowed more teams to be seen on television. So basically they signed, the other schools signed contracts. So this is before the conference contracts started getting crazy.
Yes, sir.
So now you have more and more teams as a result becoming competitive because it's parity. When you take away when you put a cap on the number of scholarships that schools could offer, that allowed everyone to get spread out. Right? And Oklahoma and Texas were the other two, if I'm not mistaken, the other blue bloods from way back. But anyway, so now you have more and more schools becoming, because that's how Florida State and Miami became great in the 80s. Because when Bobby Bowden and Howard Schlellenberger respectively took over their squads in the late 1970s, they really started from the bottom. And so as a result of the rule change and everything, in terms of exposure and allowing them to play as independents, they were both independents at the time, anyone, anytime, anywhere, any place, they started getting more and more recruits because people started to take note of them. That's how they became the powers in the 80s. And so you're seeing that now also recently with Clemson becoming a powerhouse. Who else? Oregon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a few others out there. That's how you see all those guys come about. And I know Alabama was the other team I mentioned in the way back in the day that I forgot to mention, but they had a resurgence because the same very thing. So I say all that to say this. Caleb Williams in the transfer portal kind of figured it's not surprising because Lincoln Riley, formerly of Oklahoma, is now at USC. There's a big chance that Caleb Williams is going to follow him to SC. And I don't think he has to sit a year now. I think they relaxed the transfer rules now.
They have
the transfer portal, so he can play right away. Right. So you have Texas A&M, unbeknownst to everybody else, if rumor has it, their deep-pocketed alumni is trying to lure him to College Station with some NIL promises. Because the young brother, who's a true freshman last year, only came this close to a possible college playoff spot as a true freshman. So what do you think he's worth now, right? What do you think he's worth now? So I still did say this. It's truly the wild, wild west in collegiate athletics now. Especially in football. And it's exciting. I love it. Because again, if you have these college coaches, a lot of these guys, the highest state employees in their respective states, right? If they're able to make all that money off of this talent, a lot of these kids coming from impoverished situations. Why aren't the kids not always, but there's a fundamental problem with that, especially if you believe in capitalism. Because it's so un-American. So this is fun. I love this. I think the chickens will come home to roost because now a lot of these blue bloods, how are they going to keep a lot of these kids? If you have pro football factories in Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, you're used to getting almost all the wealth. Now with NIL, we promise to sell, like say, if you have some deep pocket of oil folks in Houston, that could help the Houston Cougars. That could help. That could help Baylor.
It could.
TCU. That's oil country right there. And so it could help with SMU. It could help. Hell, it should help Miami.
it should, right? Yeah. So there's several aspects of this whole thing that have to be brought up for discussion, man. And I was already under the assumption of Caleb Williams was already in LA at this point, but I'm hearing now this is the second time. Or Caleb, this is the second time that I've heard this week because we talked about him last night on Sleazy, that he's not actually signed on yet. And shout out to Caleb, he's actually from this area.
Right.
It's very interesting because you start thinking about the various regions, the various media markets that these cities are in, where these institutions are, that could be highly attractive because of the NILs. And then, of course, it's all about whether or not these kids believe that they can go to a program and win there. Because, of course, at the end of the day, it's their ability to win. And right next to that is their ability to go play pro ball.
Right.
Now under that is their ability to make money. And a lot of these institutions that used to be able to store talent away and keep them on their benches for like 2, 3, 4 years, redshirt them, and get them to play later on while they wait behind and have these long dynasties. When you hear guys that have been there for 4 years and they're finally getting an opportunity to start because the guys that were ahead of them or that were older than them started longer than them and they got their opportunity. You might not get that no more because now you get an opportunity to actually play quicker, one, and develop a little bit more. You actually get seen, and now you get an opportunity to earn money off of your likeness. And it's going to be interesting to see which kids start to lean more towards that exposure so they can get that NIL money rather than going to one of these powerhouses, becoming a cog and waiting for their turn for them to play. So as these institutions, not just the other not the other Power 5 teams, but these Group of 5, and then also you start talking about these programs that are FCS and even Division II. If they can start parlaying this NIL the right way, it's going to be real interesting to see where talent and how talent is disseminated amongst collegiate sports from here on out.
And speaking of, because it's the ultimate equalizer now, right?
Because I don't know if it's the ultimate equalizer just yet.
It's headed that direction, though. I think it's headed that direction. Yeah, I think it's headed that direction.
It's definitely starting to spread the talent out a little bit more than what you were in the past.
Because go ahead.
You really had no incentive to go no place else. Why? I'm not going to win the title there. I can't earn money.
Right.
I mean, the best I can do is probably play. And if I can't get other guys to come and play with me, I'm probably going to get killed. Why am I going to go there? Right. Now you have an opportunity to go earn money, start early. You probably get some other guys to come with you because you go in there now, and you can go ahead and probably start winning over there too.
Yeah, exactly. And which is why I never understood why. I mean, I understood why, like, for example, kids want to ball in Tuscaloosa, Alabama over balling in Hawaii. We get perfect weather, almost perfect weather almost every day of the year. Or South Florida. Or anywhere in Florida for that matter, like below Gainesville. But still, NIL is leveling that playing field, brother. As soon as there are a lot of reasons why a lot of those coaches of these blue blood institutions might bitch to moan about that. Because they know it's going to make their jobs a lot harder. Because a lot of this shit that used to be under the table, not saying that they all did it, but you know what they're saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And there's only cheating if your ass gets caught, right? Ask the SEC about that. I'll let you. But anyway, instead of having all that under the table, everything's above board. Yeah. So now, again, I mentioned Houston, the Houston Cougars, who's about to be a Big 12 squad. If you're Houston, all that oil down there, all those deep pocket alumni, they got them. Why not? If you're Cincinnati, in Ohio, you got all these Fortune 500 companies here. You got these connects here. We have the casino that's downtown. Why not? If you these other schools, these mid-majors or whatever, and near major metropolitan areas, why not? So if you you be able to play. You may not be able to have the best shot of being having some exposure, but you can get paid.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen at USC. Not that people will want to not go to USC, but you're in Southern California now. NIL. I have a coach who can coach Wolferdam and Raleigh. Come on now.
It becomes extremely dangerous, right? And I was going to bring it up in other sports, and I'll get to this in a moment. But God, can you imagine becoming the king of LA and balling at either USC or UCLA, either or at any sport there? Or if St. John says, hey, you want to come become the king of New York, come in here.
That's another one. St. John's in basketball. Yes. Yes.
Yo, the Knicks, they playing. But yo, you gonna come here and be the legit king of New York here in the city. Because as good as those players are for the Knicks, there are no icons on that squad. No legit icons. Is Derrick Rose still in New York?
Yeah, he is, but that's the closest thing to an icon that's there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's still not. He's not old D Rose,
right?
He's old D Rose, but he's not the old D Rose,
right?
So, yo, if I'm thinking, I want to come get that NIL money in New York and become the king of New York in basketball. Okay, I'm sorry, I forget about the Brooklyn Nets. I forget about the Brooklyn Nets.
I still look at them as New Jersey. I'm sorry, I still look at them as New Jersey. Fuck it, I don't care.
Let you know how much I just zoned out on James Harden, KD.
They're getting their asses beat by Indiana right now, but go ahead. That's another story for another time. Yeah,
exactly, right. so yeah, you can legit become the de facto king of New York playing for St. John's. You don't think a kid might take a bite out of that? Are you kidding me?
Yes, and Georgetown and your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
Georgetown.
Right? That can become dangerous in DC.
Yes. DC
it can most definitely become dangerous in Miami. It can be Miami of the 80s all over again.
Yeah.
All over again.
Or your beloved Maryland Terps, your hometown Maryland Terps in football and basketball. Right outside DC, right outside the Beltline.
Exactly, right? So you end up having that ability of being the man, here in this region too.
Yeah.
So again, outside of Ovi and maybe Bradley Beal, who doesn't even get a lot of respect in the league, you have an opportunity to become the man here in the region.
Yep.
So yeah,
shout out to Alexander Ovechkin, by the way. He's one of my favorite NHL players. So shout out
that's
to
what I'm saying. I said Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Strasburg, but Strasburg can't stay healthy, and I don't know if many people know what his face even looked like.
Yeah.
But still, right? Outside of those dudes, you have an opportunity to come here and be a king.
Right.
And with these NILs, man, you'll be the man on campus.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And you know what? And I want to segue to HBCU sports because we could talk about how NIL can work at the SWAC, especially the SWAC.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain ways in which it can work again here with Howard in DC, right?
There you go, Howard.
You have
come on.
Yeah, you have a local head coach. Oh, most definitely, right? With Kevin Blankney, who's the head coach over here at Howard, who has DC roots himself. He can go ahead and recruit you here, and again, Georgetown, they might beat you in basketball, but if their Loves could go ahead and figure out a way to get you some money in your pocket while you're playing here too, you could kind of become a face of DC yourself here playing for Howard too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you start talking about the SWAC and a lot of the major media markets that they surround in terms of the Montgomery, Huntsville area with the Alabama schools, the Baton Rouge market, the Houston market with
Texas Southern and Prairie View.
A&M.
Yep.
That Tallahassee market, it's not a huge market, but it's a medium-sized market. Daytona Beach is a big market.
Yep.
So you have some media markets there that are attractive for those programs. It's just whether or not the other institutions, because Deion Sanders has already shown that he can do it.
At Jackson, Mississippi, yes.
Jackson, Mississippi, about picking up one Travis Hunter, but also the one thing that they're also understanding too is that you don't necessarily have to revolve around a media market in order to be big. You can go ahead and do it with social media, and with Barstool Sports not necessarily being limited to those television markets. All of that stuff is internet and social media wise. That's a way for you to go ahead and make that dough and to get that check, and also can level the playing field that way too. So this is interesting to see whether or not what institutions have the means to get to certain companies to help these institutions. Well, not even help the institutions, but yeah, to help these institutions be a lure to these students so they can get these NILs.
Yes, exactly. That's well said, because again, it's going to be interesting to see how this, I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work better than what people think for HBCUs. I think it's going to work better than what we as HBCU supporters and alums, I think it's going to work better than what you do. Because again, you mentioned Houston earlier. Houston's a big time market down there. Other than NASA and them, you have a lot of oil money. And there are Black people who have oil money too. You don't know who they are. They're out there. They're other alums, and not only just Black alumni of these SWAC institutions. I've used the SWAC because they're the hottest thing right now. But not only that, but you also have the other companies that support these HBCUs, some sponsorships and everything else. So you cannot tell me, and I'm focusing on those Houston schools, Texas Southern, Prairie View A&M. I mentioned University of Houston earlier. You can't tell me they can't parlay that and get some real talent down there. I mean, it doesn't have to be on the same level.
It's all about figuring it out.
It doesn't have to be on the same level as SBS. So I'm saying you can get talent. It's going to, NIL is something else. I mean, people don't know. I mean, they're really, if these coaches at this Power Fives are pissed off, they're going to really be pissed in a few more years.
Oh, yeah. If these coaches can figure it out, and oddly enough, they got the guy to show them the way. The question is whether or not he's going to be willing to show them the way. And one Deion Sanders, I hate having to go back to the Deion Sanders effect, but it can be realer.
It's real, brother.
And be scarier than what people think it already is. And I'm gonna touch on it a little bit later on with the HBCU news on another way it's affecting collegiate football too. But yeah, if these coaches can figure it out, it's gonna be scary.
Yes. So let's get to it, man. Since we're in the HBCU segment, so there's some new coaching news and stuff that you teased. I want you to hit that teaser. I want you to hit that teaser and then tell us about this new coaching news at one major SWAC institution.
Well, I'm gonna start with the coach first.
Oh, go ahead.
So,
please,
first things first. Congratulations to Bubba McDowell. For those who think they heard that name before, yeah, Bubba McDowell played in the NFL with the Houston Oilers for a very long time.
We remember
that Bubba McDowell.
Yes, remember watching.
Most definitely the defensive back that played there with the Oilers. Is now the head coach at Prairie View A&M, replacing one Eric Dooley. Now there are a lot of people who are screaming, "Oh my God, the Sanders effect!" Pump the brakes. Bubba actually was on the coaching staff there at Prairie View for a number of years before taking on the head coaching job. I mean, it might have a little bit to do with it, but it's not like they went out seeking an NFL player to go ahead and bring on their staff. No. They already had him on staff.
Right.
And the team and the players are already familiar with Bubba, and they decided to go ahead and hire him. Wonderful hire for them. Going to be very interesting to see what he continues to do with this program, and if he can continue to keep this program on the level that it has been on the past couple of seasons. So congratulations to Mr. McDowell. Yes, the thing that I teased about, the Sanders, the Deion Sanders effect. All right, we already know about the numbers for the Celebration Bowl and how we talked about it being sold out and how big of a deal it was, blah, blah, blah. Numbers, right? Of course, we already talked about the attendance numbers. Let me go ahead and remind those that don't remember. The attendance for this past Celebration Bowl was 48,653. Most ever in terms of attendance for the Celebration Bowl.
Right.
But let's talk about how big it was in comparison with other bowl games. Of the 38 total bowl games played this bowl season, not including the championship game, which is coming up next week. But the 38 bowl games played, the Celebration Bowl's attendance numbers outdid 27 other games this year.
Wow.
27. And those games do include the likes of the Liberty Bowl, the Outback Bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the Peach Bowl, which was also played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah.
The Cheez-It Bowl, the Armed Forces Bowl, Vegas Bowl, all of those games I just named did over 30,000. But they outdid 27 other bowl games in terms of attendance. So congratulations to the Celebration Bowl and their organizers over there for everything that they've done this year to make that bowl game such a success. I will say this though, even with if they would have done their average number was around 38, right? I'm sorry, around 36, 37,000. They still would have outdone about 18 or 19 other games like they've done in past years. So Celebration Bowl is a viable game, and I'm glad to see that not only did they come to a 6-year extension with both conferences and with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to continue to hold the game there. I'm just glad. I'm intrigued to see exactly what direction this game continues to go into and to see what these attendance numbers continue to do for the next 6 years.
You know what? Before, I'll just be transparent with you all. I was one of those Bammas, if you will, who's like, well, the Celebration Bowl takes away some HBCUs' chance to go to the FCS playoffs, without realizing that historically the FCS playoffs do not favor schools from HBCU dominated conferences, right? So for whatever reason, they decided whether it's like not strong enough schedule, surface schedule, or whatever. I don't know the dynamics of them being able to schedule teams outside of the SWAC or the MEAC or whatever, as far as FCS level. Like the Jackson State's having the chance to schedule against not Norfolk State, but North Dakota State, South Dakota State, James Madison. James Madison's about to move to the FBS, by the way. But James Madison's
Sam Houston
State,
State.
These powerhouses, yes. Yeah. I don't know the dynamics. Maybe they do. I don't know. I have to do some research on that. But I like the fact that ESPN has been willing to put these schools, these two conferences, give them a big spotlight in the midst of the FCS Plus, which is I find to be the coolest part about it, and the beginning of the FBS bowl season, and give this coverage on ABC, and just let it flow. And to see the attendance increase year after year after year, the popularity gets year after year after year, and inspires competition between those two major HBCU conferences in the SWAC and the MEAC is awesome. It's damn awesome. So now these schools from these two conferences are looking more forward to playing each other, getting to the Celebration Bowl in the club, because I think both teams get a payout, right?
They do. Both teams and the conference. Well, both teams and the conferences get a payout, but of course, the participants get a bigger share of said payout. So to your point, now the SWAC actually gave up their eligibility to participate in the playoffs when they started realizing that, hey, we can go ahead and start making money by having a championship game and by having a true champion. So they gave up their eligibility to have an automatic bid for the playoffs that way. And then, of course, the MEAC did the same when they decided to participate in the Celebration Bowl. Because, I mean, yes, the champion was going, but there were several instances where the number 2 or the number 3 team, in my eyes, several years could have gone and didn't. So they decided that it will be a little bit more advantageous for us financially to go ahead and participate in the Celebration Bowl.
Right.
Yes.
Very much so.
Right. Now there are those who like to have a conversation of, okay, what do these institutions actually get from participating in the Celebration Bowl, and how much of the money makes an impact on their institutions, blah, blah, blah. That's another conversation for another day. But I will say it does make, it at least does make an impact financially. And regardless of what your feelings are on whether or not these two conferences should be competing for a national title or whether they should continue to play in the Celebration Bowl, I will say, of course, the exposure and the benefits that are reaped because of it, and some of them are actually financial, are positives for these institutions. And then, of course, like I said before in the past, hey, you want these teams to compete for national titles? Then alumni, go ahead and get your dough up, get your money up, and give to your institutions so that they don't have to rely on playing for dough, and they can just go ahead and get their money and compete for national championships.
Yes.
Whereas right now they're looking at themselves more so as a business rather than those that are going out there to necessarily focus on competing for national championships. But again, another conversation for another day. But thankfully, Celebration Bowl does exist. Benefits are being reaped, and now they've done something this past year by getting up to 48,000, and they were legit 2,000 plus away from getting up to the not celebration, but the Citrus Bowl, with University of Florida and Central Florida, with them having over 50,000 attending that game.
Yeah.
So they were pretty close to getting that number 2. So I mean, they're doing a wonderful job in terms of attendance, always have been, and hopefully always will be.
Yes.
And I just can't wait to see exactly what happens with the future of the game. But God knows, I have to admit that that 48,000, it doesn't happen without Deion Sanders being at that game. I'm not gonna lie.
Very true too.
I'm not gonna lie, because we've had some great teams participating in past years, and some great talent participating in past years in the Celebration Bowl. But more eyes and more attention and more media attention too.
Yes, that part.
Which is a positive and a negative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, pay attention to us all year long, dog.
Right.
Don't just go ahead and wait until now. But the attention, it's positive, man. But it has its downfalls. But I don't want to get into that conversation. I'm just
that's another podcast in episode, brother.
I'm congratulating the Celebration Bowl on their achievement.
Yes.
Of doing something that a lot of people didn't think that they would do, amidst the competition that they're dealing with, and they're doing wonderful even within a COVID pandemic year. So applaud to them. So that one. Okay, real quick, because this just came in while we were doing the show, that I just noticed. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick again. Looks like, realignment in conferences. There's another conference out there on the FCS level that's looking to make some additions, and that conference is the Ohio Valley Conference, the OVC.
Okay.
And there's news coming out that says industry sources tell me, I don't know who this me is, but I'll figure it out who it is a little bit later on, that Murray State is departing the OVC. Wow. Okay. Wow. That Murray's departure was expected by OVC officials, and the league will continue to seek to expand, with their search including both current D1 SCS football playing institutions, as well as prominent D2 institutions in the Midwest and Upper South. And those institutions that have been talked about on the D2 level are Southern Indiana, Hillside, Grand Valley State, that monster, and Lincoln Memorial. On the FCS football side, Western Illinois and Arkansas Pine Bluff.
What?
Yeah, so there's been conversations about conferences poaching out of the SWAC over the past year, especially with that Oklahoma, Texas move to the SEC has done nothing but create dominoes where other conferences are looking to bulk up and replace pieces and poach pieces from other conferences. And it was just a matter of time in which HBCU conferences would start to become the target. It's just all whether or not these institutions are going to decide to leave or not. So OVC would potentially be joining Tennessee State if that is a move that they desire to make.
That's crazy how that domino effect would stretch its tentacles right in other areas
of
Oklahoma, Texas, what they did.
Yes, exactly. Right. So yeah, you know, God, what would it say in The Wire? All the pieces come together.
Yeah.
All the pieces play a role or play a part. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on in collegiate athletics as well. So that's just another domino that's potentially falling in that realm too. So last but not least, I wanted to go ahead and acknowledge there were two deaths recently that have huge ramifications in the HBCU and sports realm. Right.
Okay.
First and foremost, we're going to go in order of passing. The great Sam Jones, aka
Yes.
Mr. Clutch,
Yes.
you know, who played 12 seasons with the Boston Celtics, was is a Hall of Famer,
Yes.
was a member of both the 50th and 75th NBA anniversary teams,
Yes.
was a member of 5 All-Star teams, a 3-time All-NBA player, won 10 NBA championships, all with the Celtics, and is also an alum of North Carolina Central University.
Right.
Also, on January 1st, it was the passing of actor Max Julien.
Yes. The Mac.
Yes, you're wondering, for those out there who don't know, I'm about to get to it in just a moment. How does this tie into HBCUs and sports with Max Julien? Okay, so the actor most known for his roles on Mod Squad and, like you said, known as Goldie from the Mac, used to play high school basketball here in DC at Phelps High School. His one-time teammate before he went on to transfer to Spingarn High School, the alma mater of both my father and my uncle, that player was the great Elgin Baylor.
Whoa.
So yeah, he played with basketball at Phelps with Elgin Baylor before Baylor went ahead and transferred on over to Spingarn, and of course, eventually going on to be a great for the LA Lakers.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, how does Max Julien tie into HBCUs? You might add. Well, once he graduated from high school, Max Julien, or Maxwell Banks as he was known at the time, is an alum of Howard University.
Oh, I didn't know that. The Mac went to Howard. Okay.
The Mac went to Howard. Now, what I'm trying to find out is whether or not Maxwell Banks, aka Max Julien, played basketball at Howard University. I can't seem to find any evidence as of right now, but I'm still doing research now to find out whether or not that was the case. Right?
Right.
The irony that I'm making these announcements on today. Now, of course, Scott, you know this. Some of my viewers might know this too. The significance of January the 5th. Can you tell them, Scott?
I have a feeling it has to do with a certain fraternity.
It sure does. Can you tell them the name of that fraternity, sir?
Unfortunately, that fraternity is Kappa Alpha Psi. The pretty boys.
If I would have known that was going to be your reaction, I should have known.
Shout out to my Alpha Phi Alpha, the oldest and the coolest, but go ahead. But props to, shout out to the brothers. They're great brothers in this fraternity. I know some great brothers personally. Kappa Alpha Psi, Ka Psi. One of my favorite Steelers of all time.
Greg Lloyd.
Yeah, Greg Lloyd. He was the Kappa, but I was thinking of that. He used to play with Troy Polamalu in the secondary. Ryan Clark. He showed up on the ESPN set looking clean. His Alpha in his Kappa Alpha set, but I kid, but I got love for the Kappas. I got love.
I'll say this, right, and it's interesting that you brought him up as your favorite Steeler all time because, of course, you know he started here, in DC, and he rarely talks about that. But that's another time, another conversation about Ryan Clark. But yes, I bring that up today, ironically enough, and I didn't know this until right before the show. Well, I found out about Max Julien, but I didn't know about Sam Jones. But something said, do your research real quick, find out, and I was correct. Both are members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So shout out to the both of them on Ka Psi anniversary on their untimely passing. God, Max was 87, Sam was 88.
Right.
So yeah, it was
both lived long lives too, so great.
They did.
Rest in peace to both of them.
And well-respected lives at that, because of course we all know the many references of Max Julien. Actually, that's the funny part too. Everybody knows him as the Mac, but he was a classically trained actor.
Yes.
As a lot of blaxploitation film actors were before getting into that genre. But yeah, he was a well-trained classical actor before getting involved in blaxploitation films. And then, of course, with Sam Jones and the master of the bank shot at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that both of those brothers are members of the same fraternity, and we talk about them on their day today. That was accidental. I didn't even know that until like right before the show.
Nice. So thank you as always, Dwayne, for blessing us with some HBCU knowledge. Again, that's why I got you on the show, brother. You educated me, and this is the message. You educated me in a lot of ways. So thank you for that, and thank you all for tuning in to the nice podcast. Please check Dwayne out and his great work on HBCU on herosports.com. We'll come back with that. Herosports.com. We rap about all things SAS and Alexis pertains to HBCUs. Sleazy Radio every Tuesday on Facebook Live. Check him, the coach, and Sweet Lou out. Last but not least, the Yard HBCU Sports, where we rap about all things HBCU Sports. And those links will be in the description when I upload this to YouTube tomorrow. And check me out, theclowntimes.net, www.theclowntimes.net, Clown spelled with a K. Check me out on Facebook. And please continue to like, comment, share, subscribe. Please do so. Please stay safe out there. Be cool. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Until next time. We shout out to the KA Side brothers. But I gotta do this like for my FIA all day, every day. Take care. We out.